Today we're going to look at the circumference of a circle. We're going to understand what the circumference means and also how to calculate the circumference of a circle. So first let's look at the parts of a circle. So here we have a circle and all the way around the outside, so that length all the way around the outside, that is what we call the circumference of the circle. Technically it is the perimeter of a circle, but it's got a special name and we're calling it the circumference. If you draw a line straight through the middle of your circle, creating two semicircles, it could go anywhere, it could go up and down, diagonal, as long as it goes from one side to the other, straight through the middle, that is what we call the diameter of a circle. And if you figure out what half of the diameter is, okay, so it could be from the centre out to the circumference, or it could go anywhere else, but it is half of the diameter, that is what we call the radius. So we've got the circumference all the way around outside, straight through the middle from one end to the other is diameter, and half of the diameter is the radius. So let's look at some little examples here, and we're going to figure out how we would calculate the circumference of a circle. But let's first consider these four circles here. You don't need to copy this down at all. We're just going to go through some little examples to figure out how we calculate the circumference. So let's look at our orange circle. So we're told that the diameter of this circle is 1 centimetre and the circumference is 3.14. On the pink one is 1.5 centimetres for the diameter and the circumference is 4.71. The green one 2 centimetres diameter with a circumference of 6.28, and the large red one 2.5 centimetres for the diameter and 7.85 for the circumference. So we're told this information. Let's just do a little calculation to see what happens if we take the circumference and we divide it by the diameter. So first one, we're going to do 3.14 divided by 1, which is 3.14. We're then going to take, for the pink one, the circumference 4.71, divide it by the diameter to get 3.14 again. And the third one, take 6.28, divide it by the diameter to get 3.14 again. And the last one, 7.85 divided by 2.5, I wonder what we're going to get, 3.14. So no matter what circle we have, if we take the circumference and we divide it by the diameter, we are always going to get this number out as 3.14, or approximately 3.14. Okay, and this number here is what we're going to help to use to calculate our circumference, and we refer to this number as pi. Okay, so pi is the number of times you must travel straight across the circle to go the same distance all the way around the outside. So if you're looking at the red line going along the middle and the blue line going all the way around the outside, it takes the red dot 3 times and a little bit more to go the same distance as the blue all the way around the outside. Let's have a look at that again. So if you follow the red line once, twice, 3 times, and then a little bit more. So that's where we get 3.14 from, and we're going to call that pi. And this is the symbol, it's a Greek symbol. That is what we use to refer to that number, 3.14. So that is pi. So the value of pi, okay, the exact number, we just use that Greek symbol spelled pi. And we use the symbol because the number is an approximation. Okay, so this is what pi actually is, and that's been rounded to 200 decimal places. So when we're calculating it, we're never going to write this big, huge, long number. We're going to round it up to 3.14. Okay, but that's just to show you what pi is and sort of where it's coming from. Now let's get into some examples. Okay, before we do examples, we do need to work with a formula. So previously, just looking at those slides before, we said that if we take the circumference, divide it by the diameter, we get pi. Okay, but we're trying to figure out a formula to calculate the circumference. So if c divided by d equals pi, then c must be equal to pi times d. This bit in the box is really, really important, and I would like you to copy this down, because that is the formula we're going to use to calculate our circumference. where C stands for circumference, so circumference equals pi is 3.14 and D is for diameter. Okay, so if you pause this slide here, make sure you've got all of this copied down. This bit in the box is the most important bit. Now let's put this into practice. So first example, let's calculate the circumference of this circle. We know the diameter and we know a formula. So we're going to start off by writing a formula, C equals pi times D. Remember in algebra, if anything's written side by side with nothing in between, this means multiply. So C equals pi times D. We're going to substitute or swap out the things we know. So we know that pi is 3.14 and we're going to times that by the diameter, which is in our question. So we've got our formula, we've substituted into our formula, we now just need to calculate. So you can use a calculator to do this, plug it into your calculator and make sure you remember your units in your answer. So 3 lines of working. Okay, your turn. If you pause the video here, and can you please calculate the circumference of this circle? Okay, so we need our formula to start with, C equals pi D. Then we need to substitute into our formula, so we're going to swap out the pi for 3.14 and the D for our diameter. Okay, so 3.14 times 9, and you should have got circumference equals 28.26 centimetres. So really well done if you got that right. Always remember your units as well. Okay, let's look at a second example. So at the start, we looked at parts of the circle. We found that the diameter is from one side straight across to the other, and the radius is half of the diameter. So here in this question, we've been told the radius. For us to calculate the circumference of a circle, we need to know the diameter, but we can work that out because we know that the radius is half of the diameter. So to find the diameter, we just need to double our radius. Okay, so we need the length from one end all the way over to the next. So double the radius to get 14.4, and then we're going to go ahead and use the formula C equals pi D to calculate the circumference. So we're going to substitute in our 3.14 times our diameter. Make sure you're using the diameter, not the radius. And then we can calculate it. This one we would get 45.216, but we're going to round it to a nicer 2 decimal places. Okay. And again, if you pause the video here, and can you please calculate the circumference of this circle and round your answer to 2 decimal places. Okay, so here again we've been given our radius. So in order to find our circumference, we need to know the diameter. But we can figure that out by simply doubling our radius. So 2 times 5.1 give you 10.2. Then we're going to go ahead and use the formula that we've seen previously. So C equals pi times D. C equals 3.14. We're going to swap out the pi for 3.14, the diameter for 10.2, and then we go ahead and calculate it. So you should have got 32.028, and then if you round that to 2 decimal places and remember your units. So again, really well done if you got that correct.